The other thing that happens, and I saw this during Hurricane Ike, when I was away from the house with Craig, I went up to the Army-Navy surplus store. And up there, they have MREs and things for sale. The FEMA drop point was just 4 miles down the road from there. But you wouldn't believe all the people that when they think you have something that they're entitled to it the minute the first shit hits the fan. You don't give away what you've put back for yourself like that when there's a place just down the street that's giving it away anyway. You know, why should I give this to you so that I starve? But every one of those people in those damn Volvos and Beamers and all this other crap and these bling cars coming down the street wanting people to give them stuff. You know, the sense of entitlement. Watch out for individuals that think they're entitled to shit. You know, they could turn out to be a problem. There's no entitlement. If you didn't prepare, then you basically are on the mercy of the people that did, and whether they will give you a little or not. So, just, you know, there are people who have good principles and they will share if they have it to share, but only very few people around here know that I have anything. In fact, none on my street know that I have anything. I have a couple of family members that do, but then my family, most of them prepare, so, you know. You know, we might give you a little water or maybe a little bit of food and send you on your way, but you ain't going to come here and eat us out of house and home. You know, we've put back for our own. You know, of course, that would be in a more long-term situation. You know, in a short-term situation, anybody can spare a little food if you've put some back, you know. You can help people out. Blankets, clothing, shirts, whatnot, you know, things to keep the elements off of them. But don't become the Salvation Army. They'll all be at your doorstep. It ended up, the guy who ran the Army surplus store had to sit there. This was to keep from being looted. He had to sit there on a porch in an old wooden chair with an AR in his lap. Because some of those people were downright belligerent. They believed they had a right to everything he had in that store. So we went down there. That was something I didn't bring up in that thing about Ike for 14 days. But yeah, he was having to guard his stuff. And one of the reasons he did is that area, even in peacetime or in a non-disaster situation, he was getting broken into occasionally. Somebody broke in there and stole a bunch of his BDU stuff and a bunch of other things. You know, just anything they saw of value. He'd come in the next morning and, you know, the window would be busted out or the door would be pried off its hinges and shit would be missing. So yeah, he guarded his stuff during Ike, and I don't blame him for it. These are things you have to consider. What area are you in? How are the people going to act? In a city, I wouldn't want to be caught dead in a city. In a city, it's every man for himself. But what I've found living out here, most of these people help each other out. And they're good folks. But then again, you know, you got to understand that different people think differently, so you don't want to be spreading the word that you're Salvation Army even out here, you know. But have a plan, you know, at least until I think it's mid-October or something like that. Man, I came late in the year, and there have been a couple of them that have come late in the season, and they've been bad ones in recent years, in past years. So, at least during this time of the year, mid to late summer, early fall, you should have some preparation laid in place for natural disaster if you're close to the coast. That's not being paranoid. That's being smart. Do you want to be the one that's sitting at home eating comfortably and weathering the storm well? Or do you want to be the one that has nothing at all down there with your hands open and turned, with your palms turned up at a FEMA drop site or at some other person's house who really doesn't give a shit about you? You know, your ability to prepare now gives you peace of mind and comfort later. That's what it's all about. It's not about surviving the hordes of zombies and blah, blah, blah. It's about how much comfort do you want to live in while you're weathering the problems. You know, I think the big thing Have yourself a decent supply of food. A person really, honestly, in a bad situation needs about 3 months worth of food. That's like in a bad situation. Like in a really bad situation, like say you have a solar storm, which Congress for some reason is really going on and on and on about EM protecting the grid now. Supposedly we narrowly missed a very big solar flare that if it had hit the Earth would have produced an EM event very similar to the Carrington event that knocked the eastern part of Canada offline, knocked the whole grid down, and it took them a long time to get it all working again. It's very strange that Congress is now going on and on and on about EM pulse. So when I start seeing the good-for-nothings up there talking about things like this, they've got it on their mind for a reason. They wouldn't be talking about it if there wasn't something they knew or something they were worried about. Because politicians seldom really cast those kind of worries unless they know something that you don't. You know what I mean? So I would say at the best case scenario, it takes about 1 year to manufacture one of those large power station transformers, and they have to ship it over the ocean to get it here. None of it's made in America. In an EM event, power would be down for up to, not necessarily 2, depending on how fast the infrastructure could be restarted. It could be down for up to 1 year. And this is what Congress is saying. This is what the director of the CIA, former director, is saying. Couple that to the fact that electrical companies are resisting adding EM protection to the grid. For whatever reason, they don't want to put it on there. They're going to have to make it a law, and they've already started talking about making it a law, either federally or state, compelling electrical utility companies to EMP-proof their grid, to harden their grid. So, a lot to think about, people. A lot to think about. You know, get yourself some emergency food put back, and get yourself some emergency power. In an emergency situation, you wouldn't need a lot. You wouldn't need a lot of power. You just need enough to run your lights. You can forget about running a fridge. There's no fuel. There's no amount of fuel you can have in your garage that'll keep a fridge running 24/7 for very long. You'll have to change the way that you look at available foods and how you use them. So don't plan on refrigeration, but with a few solar panels, a charge controller, and a couple of batteries, you can make power for lights so that you have lights at night. Lights equal security. If you are well lit, you can see trouble. If you're not well lit, trouble can sneak around in the dark. During Hurricane Ike, one of the things that me and my significant other did was we had it set up where solar panels were deployed on the main property, and I charged 2 batteries, one for the household and one for the place where she was camped up. She was in a much sturdier structure, and that's where we did all our base camp stuff, cooking and whatnot, and that's where she lived and where I was in and out of. But at night, I was back on the property, and I was guarding things with lights turned on. So it doesn't take a lot, you know. Just put yourself a little solar so that you can have security lights at night, or you can have lights in the house at night. You know, forget about all that electronic crap. The the cellular network was down within a day and a half. There were no cell communications. There was no phone, from what I've been told. We didn't have landlines. We all ran cellular. You know, so you've got to think about these things. But the simplest thing and the most basic thing is just make sure you have food and water for the amount of time that whatever it is requires. You know, a hurricane planned for 2 weeks to a month. You know, on out, depending. That's the big thing we have to worry about out here is hurricanes. Even this far north, out here where we are, Rita tore a lot of stuff up when it came ashore. You know, and where we lived in Houston, we were closer, and Ike tore a lot of stuff up. I mean, Ike completely devastated Galveston. Those people were caught completely unaware. And it's fun to laugh at it when the situation isn't there, but really you're giving yourself karma by laughing about it. So, prepare. Have something laid back. Even the Bible says to lay by and store for when hard times come. 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. Remember that story? The Pharaoh? Those people lived in the desert. They knew how to plan crap, and they knew what they were dealing with. That's really all that story points to. So, make your plans. Don't be a dumbass. And comment on the video.